On this episode of OC Unsolved, we cover a mystery in which two hikers were saved by a sign they didn't even make, but the sign that they did end up finding led them down a completely different mystery that today remains unsolved. So now, we cover the case of the SOS sign incident. Mount Ishidake is an island in the north end of Hokkaido, which is very popular with hikers. However, there's a catch. Along the trail, there is a rock called Safe Rock. When you reach Safe Rock, you know that you're on your way to the summit. However, there's also a nearby false Safe Rock. This false Safe Rock has led many hikers off track many times before. And indeed, on the 24th of July 1989, two men from Tokyo were indeed led off the wrong track. The Hokkaido police searched using a helicopter, but while they found a giant sign made out of 19 birch trees that spelt SOS. The two missing men were found 2 kilometers north of the sign. The Hokkaido police later visited them in their hospital, but when they mentioned the SOS sign, the hikers said, "What SOS sign?" Eventually, it was determined that they did not make the SOS sign, but who did? A second search was mounted in the area, and human bones were found a little bit away from the SOS sign, including a backpack with a tape recorder among many things, as well as a lot of other stuff like basketball shoes, a tripod, cameras, a notebook, and anime recordings. I don't know why. In fact, the tape recorder reveals some chilling last words of whoever owned it. I'll show you the video now, or at least part of it. I couldn't find the full thing. In fact, the full tape recording reads, and I quote, "SOS, help me, I can't move on the cliff. SOS, help me. The place is where I met the helicopter. The sasa, which is a type of bamboo, is deep and you can't go up. Lift me from here." The backpack and the belongings inside of it were identified to be from a man named Kenji Isumura. Kenji in his last couple months had become quite the outdoorsy type, and so, while in Hokkaido for business, he decided to go hiking at Mount Ishidake because he had some leftover time. About a day or two after he left for his hike, the owner of the hotel realized he was missing and called the police. The search was extensive, but they were never able to find him, until 5 years later. Well, maybe, because the bones were eventually identified to be from a woman with a separate blood type from Kenji's, so it's unlikely that it was him. However, the police began getting berated with questions, so to avoid the questions, they said, "Oh, wait, no, the skeleton was actually a male with the same blood type as Kenji's." So then they closed the case, and totally no one ever talked about it again. Well, okay, that was a lie. Let's get into the theories. Theory 1 is that Kenji Isumura got stuck while going from the Safe Rock and eventually climbed down the mountain. However, he eventually realized the error of his ways, but the cliffs were too steep and he couldn't get there, so he decided to record his last words and a plea for help on a tape recorder while stuck on the cliff. Then, he made his way down the cliff eventually and got to the big open flat area. There, he made the SOS sign and waited for rescue. However, rescue never came, and he eventually died of starvation. However, there's 2 big problems with this theory that anyone with half a brain can see. 1, how could an exhausted man who just scaled an entire mountain chop down 19 birch trees, which is a lot harder than you think because it's a hardwood, and drag them all over to make an SOS sign? And also, even more, where's the axe? How could he chop down trees without an axe? And even if he did have an axe, why would he bring an axe on a hike? That's a bit weird. So yeah, they never found an axe anywhere, even with metal detectors, because they did look for an axe, and they didn't. It wasn't in the backpack, it wasn't near the skeleton, it wasn't anywhere near the SOS sign. You'd think he would have had an axe to do so. Theory 2 is that someone was with him. Now, this is a bit more likely because, who knows, maybe the axe was in the other person's backpack and the other person made it farther than Kenji. And it would also explain how they were able to chop down 19 birch trees and drag them over, because it's a lot easier with 2 people. However, like I mentioned, there were no skeletons found, and there was also no second backpack found. Maybe it is there somewhere, but it could also explain why the bones were of a different type. But the backpack was Kenji's, and it was right near the bones, so it's a bit strange. Theory 3 is that the hikers that were found did actually make the sign, however, they forgot it. This is unlikely considering they detailed their entire experience except for building the sign, and also, they had no axe in their backpacks. They had all the typical hiking stuff. It always comes down to that axe. The only way any of this could be realistic without an axe is that the trees were already chopped down. However, this is very unlikely because, of course, they all had axe markings. Usually when a tree falls in the wild, it doesn't have clean cuts like an axe would. And also, the trees were completely removed of all the stems which had leaves on them. So, it was obvious that a human had interfered with the trees. But yeah, it's very unlikely that the hikers that were rescued forgot that they made the sign. Today, the case has kind of faded into obscurity, and many today also say that the police later reclassified the bones because they wanted to close the case, due to the investigation being too hard and making them look bad. A sign was also erected at the false safe rock telling people to not go there and that it's the false one, go to the other. It was even speculated that the reason the tape was recorded was so that when whoever was recording it ran out of breath to talk, they could still play it continuously, and the search team could find them. Interestingly enough as well, the parents of Kenji actually couldn't confirm that it was him, so that leaves many to speculate on if the bones were actually him, and also leads into that whole second-person theory, but yeah, you get the gist of it. The case is still officially closed by the Japanese police, despite the fact that, as we have mentioned, there are several holes in the story, and I bet if another search was mounted, maybe they could find an axe or more bones, or something that would help shed light on what actually happened. With a man still dead mysteriously, the sign now gone, and a dangerous hiking path waiting to claim its next victim, the mystery of the SOS sign incident will remain unsolved.